You didn't like the roster that we had last year.
No.
You said, we can't win with these players. Georgia said, oh, well, how would you like an entirely new roster of players? How does that make you feel, Georgia fans? We're going to talk about it next on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Game Time app, download it today. More on them in a second. He is Daniel. I am Clint. Together, we are Locked On Bulldogs. Your team every single day.
Look, click all of them.
Look,
just clicking all of them.
Just all the clicks.
That's the third segment. That's the third segment.
When we get to the third segment, this man going to come back out. I'm just here to tell you, he going to come back out. He is Daniel. I'm Clint. Together, we are Locked On Bulldogs. Your podcast for UGA every single day. We talk all things Bulldogs. We appreciate you downloading for the first time every single morning. You are there right away, and being an everydayer. You listen every single day. We pump it out. You guys consume it. We appreciate you. This is for fans, by fans, and we are fans first and foremost. So again, you come at me and call me a homer. I have done my job appropriately while you talk to 12 people on your channel, just so we're clear. Okay. I digress. Today we are talking about roster turnover. Daniel mentioned it in the open. Hey, our receivers sucked. Our offensive line couldn't protect, couldn't grade. Our defensive line, soft underbelly. Dan Jackson, the best safety we had on the team last year, and that's not my opinion. I don't care where Malachi Starks gets drafted. He might be a really good
measure of best.
I'm talking.
Where did Stetson Bennett get drafted? Who's the greatest Georgia quarterback of all time?
Stetson Bennett.
Okay, then. All right.
So it's very simple. So we're going to talk about the roster that we all said last year's team wasn't up to par. It was clear as day. We got booted from the playoffs far sooner than we expected. We had a tumultuous season because there was poison pill processes in this roster up and down. But we're going to talk about why we were inherently just bad as a roster. And hey, we have some fixes on the way, possibly with a brand new team coming in. Daniel, snaps are gone. Don't look, if you want a bucket worthy experience is key in the SEC.
Yep.
Don't look at snap counts returning for Georgia this coming year.
Yep.
Don't do it.
Second to last, I believe, in the SEC in terms of returning production. It is, as much as we have seen under Kirby Smart, it is an entirely new roster. Now, there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of things to consider. It's not to say that it's all bad news for Georgia. But if consistency was what you were hoping for this offseason, I think you already know you're not going to get it. No. If, even when you look at a team like 2021 losing all of a record-setting number of first-round draft picks off of that defense, you still had so much returning production coming back from the next, coming back in the next season. This year, we just simply, we don't have that. We don't have nearly as much of that as we are used to as Georgia fans. Now, we'll talk about whether that's good news and whether that's bad news. Just spoiler alert, two things can be true at the same time. In some cases, it's great news. In some cases, it's terrible news. And so we'll talk about that as it relates to Georgia. But how should a Georgia fan, let me start here, Clint. How should a Georgia fan frame their own mental approach to this offseason? Like, when this is the situation that we're presented with, which is going to be an entirely new roster of people, what should that do in terms of the way we manage our expectations, the things that we're looking for this offseason as we get news trickling in? What should be the things that should perk our interest? How should we navigate through the doldrums that will be the next 6 months without any college football, knowing that when we do get college football again, it's going to be not entirely, but it's going to be largely a brand new crop of Georgia football players?
I think y'all forget history far too soon.
Okay.
I just think this offseason, as you're looking about this brand new crop, as you're trying to understand how the roster is comprised and who are these players coming in, I think that you all forget far too often the historical, emotional component of being a Dog fan. Okay? Tyler Catalina.
Oh. He just likes to hurt people.
I just want you to hear it, and then I want you to remember that emotion. Okay? I want you to hearken back to that.
Hold on to that.
Because those days where you were puffing out your chest saying UGA is the best team on the planet had Tyler Catalina starting for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's not this regime. That's not this Kirby Smart. That's not this team. That's not this age for Georgia. So I want you to harken back to that. And I want you to look at it is never Kirby took. I think he did his best coaching job ever this year. He took a poison pill roster comprised of a quarterback who had zero care to play football, comprised of a running back room that didn't have a healthy person all year with experience. I said with experience. I know Frazier was there, but even Frazier got banged up a little bit. Offensive line, like you just go up and down this roster of guys that got lackadaisical, guys that got far too comfortable, and guys that are now elsewhere. And this just in, again, retired from football. Vandelay Industries only exported nothing but interceptions and retirement announcements.
Whoops.
Okay.
Yeah. Whoops.
That Kirby has purged when he takes guys and takes them off the roster.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. Y'all, I know Carson Beck is in Miami, and apparently he was the best quarterback last year in college football. Now that he's at Miami, when he was at Georgia, who knows? Okay.
Right.
What you need to look at this year, this offseason, is Kirby Smart has tasted his own blood and he don't like it. And he's done something for the first time that he has in his head coaching career. He's retained more players that he wants. He has removed poison pill players, and he's brought in an infusion of talent. This is the best transfer class we've had at Georgia yet, Daniel.
That's true.
It's not even close. Kirby's tasted on his blood. He doesn't like it. He's changing the game. Now, everybody is out here clamoring for offensive coordinator change, for position coaches change. And what I'm here to tell you is Kirby Smart has always done Jimmy's and Joe's. That, like, he believes that if I line up against you, I don't care what scheme you have. I can be bigger, faster, stronger, more talented. And if I'm disciplined and if I care enough, I will beat you.
Yeah.
Like it or not, that's Kirby. Like, y'all, he's not Chip Kelly and he's not Lincoln Riley. And you know what? Thank goodness he's not.
Thank goodness.
Because Chip Kelly is an offensive coordinator. I understand that. Ryan Day is not genius at anything he does. It was the players that are the top 5. If today the wide receivers at Ohio State would go with not eligible to be drafted players would go 1 and 2 in the draft this year with everybody else. It's Jimmy's and Joe's that are going to make this a good thing. And Kirby is developing the right one. So look at this as he's tasted his own blood and who he's bringing in. I trust in totality. Y'all need to have a little bit of emotional integrity with that. That's my encouragement to you, Dan.
Yeah, I don't hate that. We're going to get into specifically what we like about this roster turnover, specifically what we think might be problematic about it. All of that coming up right after these.
But first, these are, in fact, Game Time. GameTime.co, Game Time app. Download it right now, and here's what you're going to go do. You're going to sign up, you're going to sign in, you're going to get an account, and then you're going to go just browse around anything. Okay. You want a concert? You want a ballet performance?
Sure.
You want an NBA game, which, I mean, maybe you're out there that wants that. I don't know. If you want spring training,
somebody's got to.
Somebody has to a wild card hopeful Braves team that not ready to talk about it. Get over to Game Time, because those are the games that you get to go into and to watch and to have fandom. And right now you put over that slider option, you click it on, and it tells you upfront pricing, fees, taxes, everything all included before you get to check out. It's the lowest price guaranteed. They'll give you 110% of your ticket if you find it lower. Daniel, I use them exclusively. We love them. Get over there right now. GameTime.co, and right now put in promo code LockedOnCollege, get $20 off. Promo code LockedOnCollege, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
So I think you're right in a big picture sense. This is Kirby adapting to college football. This is Kirby, doing what needs to be done in college football. I do not think. I think it's probably a little foolish to say that every player that left is because Kirby ran them off. Like, that's obviously, nonsense. That's not what we're saying.
No, that's not what we're saying.
But I also think that it's foolish to believe that that's not the case in some instances where players leave, and that's actually a good thing for the University of Georgia. I think the fact of the matter is that you mentioned this transfer portal class, and it's going to be huge in terms of a few different positions, right? I think the turnover at certain positions makes me very optimistic. Wide receiver is one that we mentioned, and obviously we are excited about. We'll just lump pass catchers in there. We'll talk about tight ends because there's some additions in the freshman recruiting class, as well as freshman wide receivers, as well as transfer portal wide receivers that, along with the departures, make you optimistic that Georgia has significantly upgraded those portions of its roster. The issue is, Clint, that there are not many areas in which there were significant enough deficits for Georgia to be able to upgrade significantly its roster heading into next year. Like, how will Zion Branch do in terms of the competition at safety or the UAB transfer? How is that going to shake out in terms of playing alongside KJ Bolden, who we feel like is certainly going to inhabit one of those safety spots? But, you've got the star position, you've got the other safety position. Like, how are those guys going to be impact players? We saw last year, Georgia brings over a transfer from Alabama at the safety position, and he does exactly nothing for 1 year and then transfers out. Not all of these guys are good enough to play at Georgia. And Jake Pope wasn't good enough to play at Georgia ahead of guys like Dan Jackson.
Nope.
Again, not disparaging Dan Jackson whatsoever, because he was, in fact, by on-field metrics, our best safety this year.
And he's going to be drafted to the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because you bring in a transfer doesn't mean he's good enough to play. Just because you bring in a transfer doesn't mean that he's good enough to contribute. Doesn't mean that you got better at that position. And then there are the positions, Clint, where Georgia didn't bring in any transfers.
This is the interesting one.
I'm talking about offensive and defensive lines. I'm talking about quarterback. I'm talking about some of these positions in which Georgia was lacking what I will call superior talent last year.
Yeah.
And is just sort of riding with the guys they have left.
That's right.
That they're trying to develop, plus incoming additions through recruiting. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago or last week or sometime. When it comes to the defensive line, that makes me very nervous. It makes me very nervous to be putting all of our eggs in a 5-star freshman defensive lineman as if he's going to be the second coming of Jalen Carter, because even if he is the second coming of Jalen Carter as a freshman, that was flashy and pretty exciting at times, but not dominant.
Nope.
Not a dominant force game in and game out. I think losing the players that Georgia lost at those positions, right? You look at the offensive line, the players that Georgia lost, guys like Tate Ratledge, that's a significant loss when you don't necessarily have the heir apparent incumbent ready to step in, everything's going to be fine guy. It's a risk. Now, nobody develops talent better than Kirby Smart.
Correct.
Nobody manages a roster better than Kirby Smart. We've seen that with the players that he's allowed to transfer and the players that he's decided to keep, the players that he's decided to start.
Yep.
And the players that he's decided to not start.
Yep.
And until you show me video evidence of you early in 2021 clamoring for Stetson Bennett to be the starter at Georgia, you don't get to talk in this portion.
And by the way,
just don't get to say anything.
Daniel and I are definitively on the side of we don't
get to talk. Like we didn't want that. Neither did you. Kirby was right. He's proven that nobody manages a roster better than he does in college football. And so, yes, you can trust Kirby.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that there's not a reason to be really concerned if you're a Georgia fan. I think this is one of the scarier off seasons, one of the most interesting in a not great way off seasons that Georgia has had in the Kirby Smart tenure. I'm curious to see how it goes, Clint, because I genuinely feel like I don't know.
This year, Kirby stays his own blood. He's done some things that are uncharacteristic. Again, spending a lot of the transfer portal energy on wide receivers, pass catchers coming in, which is great. Trusting the development of Trey Scott, coaching some guys, of Stacey Searles, coaching some guys. That's his trust right now. He's put his eggs in that basket. Now, it's really, again, interesting because the SEC is a trench warfare conference. And college football, by the way, is trench warfare.
Yeah.
I know Jeremiah Smith caught incredible balls in the national championship game.
Not why they won.
Not why they won. They won with an incredible running game. Just explosively incredible run game.
By doing a heck of a lot more to shut down that Notre Dame run game than your Georgia Bulldogs ever dreamed of doing in the Sugar Bowl. Okay. I watched every freaking time that they fell forward for the 5th or 6th yard on their carries when we simply were unable to stop them for any less.
It was nauseating. So Kirby has put all of his eggs all into one basket of developing the trenches from in-house prospects. What he is saying, and much like the quarterback room, what he has said with Carson Beck moving on, and even the discussion likely. Now, I'm not saying Georgia would have matched, and Georgia could have matched Carson Beck going back to his in-state with his girlfriend with a car in South Beach. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if Kirby really wanted to, he would have made it harder for Carson Beck. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Not the end would have been different, but it would have made him harder, not as quick. He trusts the quarterback room as is. He trusts Jaden Rashada to take off. He would have, if he didn't, he would have put a lot more effort and NIL into that. He's trusting the competition. He's trusting his development. He's trusting his coaches. And after this year, this is an interesting one because there's a lot more shakeup coming down the road if it doesn't pan out well for Georgia right now. This is a make or break season in the point in the trajectory of the program of continuing excellence and making college football playoff, or needing a bigger overhaul within coaching. And he said, I want the same guys and I want the coaches developing those guys to get on the field. If they can't develop and improve the people we've had on campus for many years, that's a problem of those developing them. And that's when Kirby's going to have to pivot a little bit more than he has right now. But he's done everything we've asked him to, not us collectively as the fan base. He got the pass catchers y'all wanted.
Yeah. He's still got those coaching. He's still got those coaches on staff. I mean, just to speak for the fan base.
That's true.
He certainly has a longer leash than I think a lot of people would like. A lot of people don't want to have to see us miss the college football playoff before we make those types of adjustments. And I'm just here to tell you, I think Georgia is at risk from missing the college football playoff. That's not my prediction as to what's going to happen this year. It's way too early to be making those kinds of predictions. But if you don't think Georgia is not at risk of doing exactly what Alabama did this year,
there it is,
winning a big game, but then laying some eggs, not being good enough, and pissing down their leg when rubber meets the road and missing out on everything. Like, yes, I think you would see massive changes to the strategy and the structure of the way that Georgia's running the program if that were to happen. I think if you're a Georgia fan, you don't want to have to see that happen before you see the massive changes go into effect. That's the issue.
That's the issue. Hey, come back after this because it's time. He needs to make his appearance. But first, these. Well, Daniel, it's the time of the podcast that all the loyal third segment listeners, those who stick around to the very end, because for fans, by fans, dog fans, we like feeling awful, Daniel. It's something that we've enjoyed. Again, I said have emotional, historical perspective on this when we're talking about the football team. We're talking about the basketball team, and the basketball team lost in horrifying manner against Arkansas. Daniel, gut-wrenchingly horrifying manner. And I think the question I want to ask you, because right now there are 1,000 different explanations as to why we lost the game.
Right. Mike White is a garbage can coach. That's the prevailing one.
The prevailing one is that Florida recycled him well, and we were duped into picking him up and he needs fired.
Yeah.
And I quote, immediately.
Yeah.
By all of us who, again, said Stetson Bennett isn't a good quarterback. You are the same. It's a Venn diagram is one big circle. So, Daniel, why did we lose that game?
If that is your opinion, first of all, you're a garbage can fan. Like, you're just not, like, you don't have any perspective whatsoever.
None.
Where Georgia basketball is right now is in a better place than we've been in over a decade. Right now, after the losses, a better place than we've been in over a decade. So, shut your mouth, know your place. We are not that team. We're not Florida when it comes to college basketball. We have to ascend to that level. So shut your mouth and just allow this team to be way better than it has been. Way better than it has been in a long time for Georgia basketball. We lost that game because this young team does not know how to win. They are the personification of the underbelly of the Georgia defense of 2024.
Oh, here we go.
Like, they just don't have it constitutionally yet to get things done. It's hard to win on the road in the SEC. I know that Arkansas had not won a conference game yet. Do you know why? Because there's a lot of freaking good teams in the SEC.
Yep.
It's hard to win these games. You have got to battle. A double-digit lead in the first half means literally nothing. Ask Auburn, who had a massive lead against Georgia in the first half and needed to come down like a nail-biter finish in order to beat us, the number one team in the country. So it's hard to win these games. It is hard to hold on to a lead. But this Georgia team has got to grow in its ability to win and make winning plays down the stretch. And then I will say this. Georgia lacks right now a go-to bucket getter. Our best player is not a create his own shot, take over the game type of player.
No.
And that is a problem down the stretch in games. That is a problem in tournament games, in close games. That is a problem when you face better competition. Georgia's guards have to be better down the stretch. They have to make better decisions. They have to make shots. They have to get easy ones for our team on the offensive end coming down the stretch, because you can't rely on Asa Newell to create his own shot. That's just not the strength of his game. It's not who he is.
No, not at all. You saw this a couple games ago. I said the same thing. Asa Newell, we're down by a lot. Asa is trying to get something going. He does a nice little in the lane hook shot over running floater, and it doesn't hit a single thing besides hardwood.
No.
And all of a sudden, two things were very evident from that. One, specific play design on the offensive end is needed for Georgia right now, because Silas Demery, Blue Kane, LeFew, like, unless you're just dropping buckets on people, which Tennessee has a dude that can do that, by the way, just in your eye hole from three, drain it with just get on a run. We don't have that. Nope, no. We don't. We have a team mentality that can get that done, can work through somebody, but not by somebody. And that's where Asa failed at that. And it is not his game. He can develop into a very good offensive weapon that you orchestrate an offense through. That is true, but not a bucket getter. And the second thing, that mental fortitude. That when he missed that skyhook in totality, he then came back after that and started getting rebounds, started putting buckets away, started hitting free throws in the game. And the Arkansas game, no one was able to do that. Mental stuff. Here's how you know it's a mental game and the constitution or fortitude of a team. Missed free throws, y'all. Rebounding and missed free throws. That's how I know a team is not in it, quote unquote, is if those two are down. You can out hustle for rebounds and you can be disciplined at the line. We were not disciplined at the line, and we didn't have that somebody that just said, I'm going to take over the game and get it going. Now that is partly Mike White, but that's partly this is still a young team and a developing team, an exciting team, a team we believe, by the way, after even all this long run of losses, 3, by the way, we're still positioned fine. 96% likelihood to make March Madness. 96% by every metric that college basketball goes to make March Madness. When was the last time, Daniel, we had a team that exciting?
Fire the coach. We lost a game on the road in the SEC. Fire the coach. I mean, we should be a top 3 seed every year in the NCAA tournament, right? Like that should be our expectation for this program. That has been the standard that has been set, clearly put into place. And so if we settle for anything less than that, we're just being untrue to ourselves.
Daniel, nothing you just said is factually correct.
Okay. Well, I should tweet it then.
Well,
if it's not factually correct, I should post it on X.
Well, that's true. Yes. Okay. Now you're speaking.
You're an idiot if that's what you think. An idiot. I'm not going to call out your Twitter handle on this podcast, but you are an idiot. I can't. Not today, Clint.
Look,
not today.
Look, if you want to come at me and watch me turn Red Hulk, say the phrase thunder and lightning. Okay. I can't, I won't stand for it. There are principles in life. You want to see Daniel go Red Hulk on you? Talk about this nonsense with the basketball team. Talk about Mike White not being up to par so far with his basketball team. It's absolute lunacy. It doesn't make any sense. We're going to make March Madness.
We're not going to win on Saturday, y'all. Just hold your breath. We're going to lose tomorrow. It's okay. Because
Florida has a high likelihood of not just making March Madness, but winning the whole damn thing. Like a high likelihood. They are one of the top 4 teams in college basketball.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's on the road.
Cool. Yeah, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
So
just you want to lock? Here, go. There's your lock right there. There's the blood oath is being made again.
Blood oath. All right. He's Clint. I am Daniel. This is the Locked On Bulldogs podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.